What is up, guys? Raziel here, and coming back at you again with another video. I apologize, it's been a long time, a little over a month since my last video, and I feel I owe you guys a little bit of an explanation. No, I haven't quit WoW or anything like that. I did take kind of a hiatus from it for a bit, only logging on to Raid mainly because of some other things that came up, and I was trying to avoid burning myself out on the game as I was, grinding my ass off like most people were the first few months of the expansion. And I reached a point where, I was like not super happy with what was going on. A couple things to talk about in this video, but don't worry, there'll be more content coming your way. And we'll start right now with this video. So what I want to talk about in this video is I wanted to do kind of my general Legion review that I've been talking about for a while. So what do I think of World of Warcraft Legion? Well, I have a kind of a mixed feeling about it. When in comparison, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to compare it to other expansions. If you don't know already, I've been playing the World of Warcraft on and off and on since the beta, the original Vanilla WoW beta. I played. I didn't have it personally. I had a friend that had it, and I played on his computer all the time. And then when the game came out, I was 20 years old when the game came out. So I'm getting old there now, but I think I was 21 years old. Anyway, not important. Fuck it. So to move on, I think my favorite, I loved the Burning Crusade. I loved Vanilla, and despite what people say, no, I don't want to go back to Vanilla. The whole nostalgia server issue. I mean, while I understand people's desire to play that, it's in the past. It's gone. It's done. I don't think I'd get much enjoyment out of playing old content. When it's current, like in a current state, like in the way that where it's to your level, and get any enjoyment out of it, because I've done it all before. I did it all. I don't need to do it again. Yeah. I liked Vanilla a lot. Burning Crusade was fantastic when it came out. Burning Crusade actually got me through a pretty nasty breakup that I went through right before it came out. I hadn't played WoW for about 4 or 5 months, and then I went and got Burning Crusade to kind of have something to bury myself in while I was in college, to help me not think about real life, and it did a wonderful job at that. Burning Crusade has a special place in my heart. But I think where I had the most fun lore-wise and just enjoyed the game thoroughly, played way too fucking much, was probably Wrath of the Lich King. Mainly because, I love, as you can tell, Death Knights. I love the lore. I loved Arthas as a character. And I thought Wrath of the Lich King was fantastic. The storytelling was great. The only thing I really didn't like in Wrath of the Lich King was probably the trial raid, the one right before ICC. It got old really quick because at the time, you were running it on the same raid 4 times a week, both difficulties on 10 man and 25. So glad that's over. And ICC lasted too long, but you know what? It was so much fun. It was a great raid. It was a great expansion as a whole. I had a lot of fun memories of friends and guildmates playing that. Mists of Pandaria, Cataclysm started out great. Sorry to jump around like this, but Cataclysm was great at first, and then turned into a complete shit show at the end. I quit the game for 8 months, and then came back when Dragon Soul had been out for a while, and I still got bored of it by the time Mists of Pandaria came out, because it just went on way too fucking long. It was ridiculous. Then I went into Mists of Pandaria very skeptical, because I hated the lore. I hated that pseudo Chinese wisdom bullshit they were shoving down our throats the whole expansion. But the expansion had good content. The content was fun. I didn't care much for the lore other than the Klaxi. I really liked the Klaxi and the Old God lore, but didn't really get into that expansion too much. Other than I thought the content was good. It was fun. The Throne of Thunder was really fun. Then I quit again for a while, got burnt out, and then I played. I got in about halfway and finished. I got Heroic Garrosh down before it was changed to Mythic or whatever. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I killed it when it was the top end current content. Then then Warlords of Draenor came along. And oh, don't we have a lot to say about that? Warlords of Draenor, when it was when it was announced, I thought it was I had high hopes for it. I played Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2 as a kid. I played through Warcraft 3. So I knew a lot of the characters that were being put in as main enemies, and I was really excited for it. But we all know how that turned out. Warlords of Draenor's launch was atrocious and laggy and QE and all kinds of fucking crap like that. So I absolutely despised Warlords of Draenor. I was so bored of the content. I hated the fucking Facebook game that was Garrisons. I hated almost everything about that expansion. That was the last expansion that I was a hardcore Mythic Raider. I'd probably never be a hardcore Mythic Raider again. It just burned me out. Blackrock Foundry, was the death of me there. Once we cleared, once my guild got down Blackhand on Mythic, I couldn't play anymore, and I quit. When I came back 2 weeks before the patch, the pre-patch for Legion, and did a couple few heroic clears of Hellfire Citadel, and confirmed that I hadn't missed anything. So here we are in Legion. So how do I stack Legion up? Is Legion as good as my all-time favorite, Wrath of the Lich King? Absolutely not. There are some moments where I felt a little bit of that nostalgia, some of the music, in Stormheim and things like that, bring some stuff back. I think the art team has done a fantastic job. It looks gorgeous. The lore is very good. Not as good, or I would say as engaging as Wrath of Lich King, but definitely way more in tune and fun to play than Burning Crusade, lore-wise, and all the other expansions. So I'd say it's second in lore. Where it dropped the ball for me with lore was the fact that, it was so intense doing those pre-patch Legion invasion, defending things. So much, they've added so many voice acting sections to the game, which is great. But it's... they kind of dropped the ball because it was so urgent. We had to defend Azeroth from this swarm of demons that was just taking over all our land. You get to the Burning Isles, the Legion's like not even fucking there. I mean, they have a couple of hidden guys in Blackrock Hold. I guess the Emerald Nightmare is tied in with the Legion, but in my opinion, not in any real significant way. The Legion has a big presence in Suramar, but no one really gives a shit, about that. I mean, it's more like it's the Queen of Suramar is far more of a threat than the Legion that she's allowed in. As far as up to this point, I mean, maybe a few weeks, months down the line when we get 7.1.5 and 7.2, more of that will be seem more drastic. But if you look around the Broken Isles, I mean, the Legion presence is pretty sad for an expansion that's 100% centered around the Legion forces taking over Azeroth. I mean, they don't come to our world. They don't come to all the other parts of the Eastern Kingdoms or Kalimdor anymore. So, that kind of killed it for me on the lore-wise. It just kind of pulled me back out of it where I'm like, I don't feel any urgency or threat from the Legion really at all. The class order hall campaigns, I've played through the Mage, I've played through the Demon Hunter, and I've played through, of course, the Death Knight. And a bit of the Warlock as well. I think the Order Hall campaigns were fantastic, especially the Death Knight. I also played through the Paladin one a bit. The Death Knight one was fantastic, and I hope they add more to it. It was really engaging and made you feel a part of the story, even though it is a little unimmersive when you're standing there and some random asshole named likes to lick cunt, rides by on his fucking horse, and everyone's saying, "Oh, here comes the Death Lord." Like, okay, he's now the Death Lord. Anyway, it's a good. I really like the class order hall. The dungeons, the 5-mans they've been fun. I mean, I've enjoyed them. Though I think there's a flaw with there's multiple flaws with Mythic and Mythic Plus, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I got burned out on the 5-mans fairly quickly because of how many multiple difficulties there are. And again, I'll get into that in a while. But overall, the art and the the bosses and everything about every dungeon, I really, really enjoy, with the exception of Eye of Ashara. That place can suck my nutsack. I fucking hate that place. But yeah, I thought that the content that's there is good. World quests, they were a lot of fun at first, and they are just repackaged daily quests. Let's be honest, they're really no different than dailies. Even with the randomness that there is, I've probably done every world quest that you can do at least 20, 30 times. But again, even continuing on, I think the world quest is better than dailies. It's just, it's more fun to. It seems a little less tedious the way it's set up now. So bravo to Blizzard for that. I hope they can spice it up and give it some more variety. But it is an improvement over the standard daily formula that's been in the past. Reputations are back. As in Warlords, there was really no reputations to gain at all until Tanan Jungle came out. I think this is still an improvement, though I think the rewards they give you from being exalted could be better. A couple of them are very lackluster. I think the crafting system still needs a lot of help and a lot of work and needs some more relevance, though it is, in my opinion, 100 times better than it was in Warlords. Warlords completely broke professions, so it is better. So to Blizzard's credit, a lot of things are better. Now let's get into the stuff that I think is kind of holding this expansion back from being one of the best ones that there ever was. Because as of right now, if it continues on the path it's on now, Legion will definitely not be better than Wrath of the Lich King, or even as good. And I don't think it'll be better than Burning Crusade either, as a whole. Better than Cataclysm, most likely. Better than Mists of Pandaria, yes. Better than Warlords of Draenor. That's not even fucking hard. Like, smashing my fucking dick in the toilet seat is more fun than Warlords of Draenor. So, let's go on to just kind of trying to get out of this Warlords fucking post-traumatic stress disorder. Anyway, where Legion is falling short in my eyes is RNG. RNG can sum it all up. RNG on top of RNG on top of RNG. I hate the Titan Forge and Warforged systems. I think there's too much luck involved in everything, which also ties into the legendaries. I think it's great that there are legendaries, though it would have been 100 times cooler if they were hard, complicated, class-oriented quest lines that you had to complete and play to do, and not just be rolling a dice, with every emissary chest and every boss. And hey, you're lucky. All of a sudden, your class is 20% better than someone else who didn't get it and plays the same class. It's fine that the legendaries are powerful enough to make that big of a change in a character, but I think that you should have to actually do something to get it, not just play a lot and hope to God RNGesus, fucking shines his light down on you. They missed a big opportunity to use your class storylines, your quest, to maybe expand on the Order Hall campaign to find these legendaries, the ones that you want to use throughout the expansion, so you can't get super lucky and have 4 of them, in the first month, and then other people are, now at this point still don't have one, or get one that's really terrible. They dropped the ball on that. And that I can see what they tried, and maybe next expansion they'll do a better job. But legendaries as they are now, huge missed opportunity in my opinion. But going back to the RNG on top of RNG, the whole Titan Forge, Warforged, for example, one of the worst pieces of gear on my Death Knight right now is his helmet, which is only item level 855, because to get the best in slot helmet for my character in the game, I'd have to get super fucking lucky beating the highest Mythic Plus difficulty that I possibly could on one dungeon, and keep finding people with those keys and hope I get lucky and get the helmet, and then hope that it Warforges or Titan Forges. And it's like that. I'm not going to do that. That seems like a huge waste of time to me. It's that needs to change. The loot is way too random. The gear the chance that it's going to even be an upgrade is way too random. And that ties in again to another huge flaw of the expansion, in my opinion, is stats on gear. How stats have turned out, secondary stats especially. I see what Blizzard tried here, and I'll just come out and say it. They failed. They failed miserably. They're still failing. If you watch an MMO Champion, you see the changes that are being done to stats, how drastic the overhaul. They're just. It seems like they're just taking shots in the dark now because they can't figure out how to solve this huge problem that they've created. And essentially, sending everyone to an uproar because they've changed stats on Nighthold now. To be more terrible for most classes, not itemized. So all they've effectively done is make the search for the stats you want even harder and more important when they were trying to make it less important, and they just completely shot themselves in the nuts, doing this. The stat priorities in the game have been essentially fucked, and there's so many options. For example, like on Blood Death Knights, they've made some great changes in the PTR, and I'll talk about those in another video. But they've also made some changes that make no sense, and they've also ignored some stuff that's still massively broken and a problem when it's a very simple fix. Example, if you want me to go after mastery gear, make mastery more appealing. Don't make haste crit gear more rare and lower stats. Like that just makes me fucking pissed and not want to play your game. If you want me to go for different stats or prioritize, strength, for example, over, a bunch of haste, and make strength more appealing to me. Because right now, the reason why Blood Death Knights go after so much haste, and a lot of other tanks, like to go for haste, is because the class becomes boringly unplayable without it. It becomes clunky and slow and just not fun to play. And Death Knight's probably the worst of the bunch. With low haste, you feel fucking helpless most of the time, and you're just staring as all your abilities are slowly turning their cooldowns over, and it's very, 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 very unengaging. Especially for a class that's supposed to be reactive to tanking and doing things depending on the situation. So they're still continuously dropping the ball about that, and it makes me wonder. There's a hashtag going around. Does Blizzard even play their own game? And right now I really don't think they do, because a lot of the changes they're making to a lot of classes stat-wise makes no sense. There's no A to B to C to D. There's no logic links anywhere. It's just random fucking crap that's being shoved into the game to hope to God they can figure out a fix when a lot of the fixes are simple and right in front of them, but they won't do it because it wasn't their idea. It was someone else's idea, and the Blizzard's stubborn and full of themselves and arrogant, and it's going to come all crashing down around them eventually. Much as you look at forums as it is right now. Excuse me. Which then ties into, I think, the biggest problem holding back Legion is class balance. Again, I've said it in all my videos. Class balance is the worst it's been. Since vanilla, when there were classes that weren't even viable as a class back in vanilla. Legion started out that way. Warlocks were useless. Frost Death Knights were useless. There were a lot of things that were just useless in the game. And they've done some improvements there, but the gap in DPS is still huge. Gap in tank survivability is still fairly large. Gap in healing is still tremendous in a lot of cases between classes, and it's a problem. And I think it suffers from the same thing Warlords of Draenor suffer from, where they felt they needed to get the content out immediately because of the content drought in Warlords of Draenor, so they cut a lot of content and then put the game out. But the classes were pretty good and pretty well balanced in Warlords of Draenor, in my opinion. But the reverse happened this time, where it's they had a lot of content and they had a lot of the stuff done, but they probably we got to get this content out, and so they said, well, we can just balance the classes later, and because they had a lot of feedback and a lot of stuff on alpha and beta and PTR and didn't really take any of it, and so they kind of made their own bed and they got to sleep in it now. And that's a pretty bad thing to be holding back an expansion. If a class isn't fun to play, isn't engaging to play, and isn't competitive to other classes, then people just don't want to play the game. Especially, and I know they're making some changes to this, but especially up to this point where you're in an expansion where if you want to re-roll or have an alt or anything, you're fucked. You're so far behind because of the artifact system and everything that it's too discouraging to do so, and you just quit the game. So it's even hard for the alt specs too, because you hold back your main spec to level up your alt spec on your main character. Now these are things that I don't think it's too late to change or to fix. But do I have faith that Blizzard's going to get it right? Not really. I don't think that they're gonna. I mean, mainly just because they're so, they push back so hard against real feedback and against what the players say would be the smartest thing to do, what would make them happy. Which, lately, I mean, very rarely do I read a post in the forums or MMO Champ or something like that is a suggestion that's too far-fetched and way out there. There still are some that I'm like, please, Blizzard, don't listen to this person, because I know they won't. They don't listen to even the good people. But there's a lot of changes of players that are really good at their class that have been suggested and just ignored. But anyway, I've gone on and rambled on quite a bit. So where do I rate World of Warcraft Legion? Well, it's good. It's decent. It's not fucking atrocious like WoD. Its content so far is on par with Mists. It's pretty good content. It's nowhere near as good as Wrath or Burning Crusade. And Vanilla is so far back in my mind. I mean, obviously, quality of life is tremendously better now than it was then. But I'm not really going to compare it to Vanilla. I don't think anything can really compare to that now. It's been too long, and the game's too different. But so it's good. I think it can be great, but I don't think it will be. I don't think Blizzard has it in them to get it there. But I would love to be proven wrong in this situation. So I mean, Legion is fun right now, in my opinion. It's the reason why I'm not on it as much as I was in the past was it's too grindy and too RNG. There's too much RNG and it's too grindy right now to, because really if you log on a non-raid night, I don't PvP much anymore. I'd rather play something else than do that. My option is grind artifact power. When if I just wait until my artifact research notes hit 25 and they're about to hit 20. Once they hit 25, I'm like, I'll get caught up just as quickly. And to be honest, the 3 stats I have left to unlock, I mean, is 2% stamina, and then I get a good one, which is 10% armor. But it's not going to make or break my character in a raid, especially since I'm only doing ahead of the curve content now. So I think Legion has a long way to go if it wants to be as good as Wrath or Burning Crusade, but it's definitely not terrible. I expected more, though, from Blizzard after they even openly admit the tragedy and complete fuck-up that was Warlords of Draenor. They kind of dropped the ball on a lot of things, and a lot of these things could have been avoided had they listened to the feedback that they asked for. But anyway, guys, I've gone on long enough. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Sorry again for my hiatus for so long. Share the channel with people. Would love to get more followers. I'm also going to do, I know it's way late in the tier, but I'm going to do a bite-sized heroic guide for Blood DKs, for Emerald Nightmare, and Trial of Valor for those of you who are, there are still some people who haven't cleared that content yet. Just quick guides of what I do to keep my DPS fairly high, as I'm scoring usually on most encounters in the 95th or higher percentile on World of Logs. I'd love to, share some of what I do with everybody. And then after that, I'm going to go into some of the 7.1.5 content changes in the video after that. So tell me what you guys think. If there's certain content you guys like to see, let me know. And keep it real, guys.